WebAssembly was originally designed for web browsers, and it's still a great fit for that. But some of the reasons why it's such a great fit for that actually make it a great fit for other contexts. And I've talked a lot about fine-grained isolation, and it can be really useful. For example, if you've got a multi-user or multi-tenant database and you want to run user-defined functions there, basically aka stored procedures or custom aggregates, being able to do that in WebAssembly is really convenient because you can sandbox that UDF so that it only has access to what that user's credentials say it should have access to in terms of data access. As I mentioned earlier, edge computing and Internet of Things, it's got some appeal there to essentially separate your core real-time OS types of code from your sort of maybe higher level code, which can run in a sandbox and thus won't take down the whole system if it's got a bug in it, making for quicker sort of release cycles for those sorts of things. And then edge computing, the idea here is that if you think of something like Cloudflare or Fastly, they're all about moving the cloud computing closer, geographically speaking, to the users of that compute, and so doing sort of just right at the edge. If you're living in India, you want to actually have your code, application code, running on a server in India, and likewise for other locations. Smart contracts on the blockchain, WebAssembly is a logical choice. It was designed to be isolated, to be statically verifiable, and resource constrained. Various WebAssembly runtimes have what's called fuel or metrics to measure the amount of CPU and memory and constrain those things that an application is using, which is ideal when you're running arbitrary untrusted code. Plugins, great example, say a photo editing application or video games. Electronic games are a great example of where plugins can be really useful, where you want to cultivate a thriving ecosystem of third-party developers to kind of make your platform more valuable. Having plugins that are isolated but that can provide value and magnify the value of your platform can be really powerful without essentially making your platform vulnerable to certain types of attacks. Close to my heart at Fermyon is serverless and functions as a service. We talked about fine-grained isolation there, being able to spin up a virtual machine for all intents and purposes to run a very quick, short-lived request and then shut it down so that it's not using any resources except when it's running is ideal. That's why Amazon developed Firecracker. As we saw on a previous slide, WebAssembly has the potential to make a huge improvement in terms of the hardware utilization there, which has dividends in terms of economics and environmental concerns and so on. And then finally, dependency isolation. This is one that I always come back to. Supply chain security tends to be top of mind for pretty much any software developer these days. WebAssembly is by no means a panacea for that, but it's an exciting piece of the puzzle for improving dependency isolation. The idea, and we'll talk about this a little bit more later, the idea here is that you would be able to adopt a dependency and restrict on a fine-grained basis what that dependency has access to, so that if your application as a whole may have access to the network, to the file system, to sensitive user information, passwords, et cetera, you can use WebAssembly to isolate a dependency so that it has access to exactly what you give it access to and no more than that. For example, if you want it to base 64 encode something, well, then it should have access really to only the thing you're asking it to encode and nothing else. And WebAssembly happens to be a really good option to ensure that.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for getting this far. If you like this talk, please subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking on the subscribe button on this page. If you would like to be a part of future events, particularly the live events, then please head to our LinkedIn channel, the URL for which will appear on this page as well. We've also added the URL to the comment section below. This Engineering Mastermind series is brought to you by Archimedes. Archimedes is a curated global software engineering guild. Archimedes believes that the future of work is here, and it goes well beyond remote work. The zenith of industrial age work was reached at the end of the 1990s and culminated with large multinational corporations around which most knowledge work was organized. Archimedes believes that the best way forward in the information age is a return to the not-so-distant past, where guilds and not companies were the dominant organizational entities around which work was facilitated. The Archimedes Guild is centered around software development and product development related skills. If you'd like to learn more about the Guild, please head to archimedes.dev. There you can learn more about what the Guild stands for, how the Guild is organized, and how you can engage with the Guild if you're interested in working either on a full-time, fractional, or a consulting basis with the type of talent that you see in these masterminds. Thank you for your time, and please remember to hit the subscribe button. Thank you.